Hello and welcome to our 9.1 preview of the Domination Armour, the first major real power progression system for players. And what does this really mean for your legendary going forwards? Right, let's make a move through. And what is Domination Armour? Well, Domination Armour is a series of pieces of gear that you'll be getting primarily from the Sanctum of Domination, although there are a few lower item level pieces out in the world as well. These are 5 pieces of gear that you'll have per armour set, and they will always be on the helm, shoulders and chest, but they'll vary from armour type to armour type. So for instance, cloth will have the belt and the wrists, leather will have the gloves and the boots, mail will have the belt and the boots, and plate will have the wrists and the gloves. So what's special about these particular pieces of gear? Well, hopefully as we're going through, what you'll be noticing is the key difference here is the domination socket, and that's a predetermined socket that will always drop on that particular piece of gear that allows you to put a special gem into that particular slot, and those gems are called shards. They'll come in 3 separate flavours, 3 separate types at the moment. They're currently called Blood, Frost and Holy, which I know is stealing those specs from Death Knight, and you'll essentially be trying to look to get those sets put together. So let's have a look at those shards. The first one's going to look at are the blood ones, and what you'll see as you're looking at the screen here is you'll see the description of those shards in particular, and you'll see they're largely broken up into 3 types, and this is common throughout each one of the sets, where you end up with a strength or a power progression one, a damage one, you end up with a defensive one or a tanking one, and a healing one as well. Now, you'll want to get a full set for one of these shards, because actually, once you get a full set of them, in the raid, and only in the raid, you'll end up with a bonus essentially that will take place. And these bonuses can be quite powerful. So for instance, the one for the blood shards here, does pulsing damage every 3 seconds, and if it doesn't heal you, it will heal you for 100% of that, and if it doesn't heal you, it will heal someone around you. So from a raid composition point of view, that constant passive ticking healing is really powerful. And some of these shards are really powerful as well. As we move on to the frost shards, if we look at the shard of core on the left hand side here, you see its damage increases 3% for 20 seconds after you've hit the enemy for the first time. Now, 3% damage doesn't sound much, but actually when you consider you've got things like bloodlust, and you've got cooldowns, and you've got potions, and all those things, actually that can be up to 9 or 10% of your overall damage for an encounter in that first thing. And consider then you've also got bosses where there's transitions, there's extra adds coming in. These shards also work out into things like Mythic Plus as well, where obviously you're going to get that effect with every single trash pack. You can actually have some real power coming through here. Now what you're going to want to be able to do obviously is to complete one set, and because there's 5 pieces, what you'll actually be trying to do then is cherry pick the other pieces that you want from those particular sets. So it's likely that a DPS player will try to pick one particular set, and that set will depend largely on something, and then you'll try to pick the other 2 potency or damaging shards from the other sets as well. These shards will also level up as well. They'll start slightly lower in power, and you'll be able to slowly grow the power of these shards through actually progressing the raid where item drops that you can buy upgrades. The other key thing here is, at the moment there's an item on the PTR that allows you to take that shard out of a piece of gear and put it into a new piece of gear. So on the plus point, if you start leveling up these shards, you should be able to just keep them as they go further forwards, and if the item actually that you can get to take the shards out isn't unique, we should be able to have a number of those bags to be able to swap them around should we need to for different specs and things like that. But there is one particular problem with this, and some of you may have spotted it already, in the fact that actually, of course these are 5 item slots now, and that's quite a lot of your gear taken up by these particular items. And the key thing this is going to impact? Legendaries. If you consider at the moment, as a balance druid, my balance of all things legendary is primarily on my boots. Well, for leather, boots is one of the shard of domination slots, so I'm going to have to change that. Now, in my case, I'm lucky in the fact that actually the pattern could also go onto the legs, but there are others where actually when you think about them, they can't. So what Blizzard is slowly trying to do is spread this out. So you'll see on the screen now, you see an example for Arcanic Pulsar again from the Balanced Druid tree, where previously it's been able to be on shoulders and hands in 9.0. Now both of those slots are Shard of Domination slots in 9.1. So actually they've added on the ring slot as well, and you'll see this across a number of the pieces. So the key thing to try and think about now is, what do I need in 9.1? Where do I need to go? Well, actually, there's very little you can do in terms of crafting those items now, because actually in this particular instance, I couldn't put it on a ring if I wanted to in 9.0. But what I could do is make sure I've got the soul ash ready to be able to craft that as soon as 9.1 opens. There's going to be a potential rush at the very early on where people aren't going to have the soul ash, and it's potentially going to cause a bit of friction. So I'd recommend starting to look ahead, spend that painful time in Torghast building up that soul ash, just so that when you, or if you need to, on day one of the patch, you're ready and prepared to get your legendary upgraded and to get those new shiny items as they come through. Going forwards, it should be less of an issue. Ultimately, we're going to have more soul ash coming through. Torghast is going to give us more soul ash going forwards. Blizzard are already planning for that, whether in fact you can actually reassign or send across soul ash from your main onto your alts, albeit with a slight cost, the same as they're doing with war resources before. And I think it's really important to just start to have a think now, start to plan ahead, certainly with 9.1 coming. At the moment we think this is going to be towards the end of June, probably more likely just in the first week or two of July. Now if you started now, you could probably get yourself enough soul ash if you had nothing in the bank ready to change one legendary over, and that would certainly be a head pick out going forwards.